turkey dinosaur?
America's original rulers, merciless beasts grazing on the flesh of cowering humans. Then, in the 15th century, a vessel crashed. 2 vessels, really.
Welcome back, everyone. This is going to be my full Rick and Morty Season 5, Episode 6 video. Rick and Morty blowing up everything you ever thought you knew about world history, the history of America. So there are a whole bunch of Easter eggs, we'll break it all down. If you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the episodes. We're doing a giveaway for Rick and Morty merch too. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber and just leave your favorite Easter egg or reference from the episode on the video. Careful for spoilers, if you haven't seen the episode yet, I'll just number these as we go along, talk about Easter eggs and WTF moments. Starting with the title of the episode, Rick and Morty's Thanksploitation Spectacular. So it was meant to be a Thanksgiving-themed, exploitation-themed episode that also parodies a lot of typical TV holiday episodes. There were a lot of different movie genres that they parodied, like they did a parody of National Treasure with the whole heist, they did a big war movie parody, they even parodied Aliens and Predator movies. They even literally referenced the Arnold Schwarzenegger Predator movie at the end of the episode. It even felt like when they went full Nazi turkeys in space, they started to do some Iron Sky references. So just generally a mixture of a lot of genre tropes and jokes from different holiday movies and sci-fi movies. Maybe even a little Invasion of the Body Snatchers with the turkey president. But the opening scene starts with their straight-up National Treasure parody, with Rick trying to steal the US Constitution because, like the plot of the National Treasure movie, he thinks there's a secret map on the back of the Constitution that will lead them to Crypt of the New World, which Rick thinks will contain this grand treasure like the Templars' treasure from the National Treasure movie. Later they use that crypt to completely rewrite the history of the United States and the world in general. When Rick jokes about the instructions for running a country being online, he's calling the actual Constitution worthless because, as he explains later, he hates all countries in the universe indiscriminately. And the actual text of the US Constitution can be found online. He's also saying that any random person could follow the instructions and use them to be a president. Even though most of the episode he spends making fun of Keith David's president specifically, just because of their long-running feud. He uses the little RC car to soil the pants of the Minutemen statues, just showing even more general disregard for the government. Morty then promptly destroys the Constitution with Rick's gun, which seems like a video game reference, so if you think you know what video game gun this is based on, just write it below in the comments, because it does look kind of familiar. Most of the time when they have really cool guns, they're based on something from video games. While destroying the Constitution, the beam also destroys the Liberty Bell way off in Philadelphia. The beam then continues to destroy the metal shell around the Statue of Liberty, revealing that there's a hidden steam-powered French assassin that apparently the French intended to use to conquer America back in the 1800s. Which it seems like Rick knew about this whole time, the way he talks about it. Then when he jokes about Thanksgiving being America's birthday, or whatever it is, that's just a joke about how inconsistent and inaccurate the origins of the Thanksgiving holiday are in the United States. There's all kinds of historical inaccuracies about the Thanksgiving holiday just in general. George Washington, in real life, was the president who turned Thanksgiving into a national holiday on November 26, 1789. So that's why Thanksgiving in the United States has always been the last Thursday before December. It's another big episode with Keith David's president. He's been in way more episodes than usual during Season 5. He sends the military to arrest them, just reminding you that the president has a bunch of super advanced weaponry, tech, and knowledge of Rick's tactics, like they're using an anti-portal field to prevent him from just portaling away. Rick has also raised the blast shields on the house a couple times this season already. It is the Thanksgiving holiday when the events of this episode are happening. I don't know if they wrote it as a Thanksgiving-themed episode thinking that it might air during actual Thanksgiving in real life, or if they just wanted to do an occasional holiday-themed episode and didn't really care when Adult Swim was going to actually release it during the year. They do that every once in a while, but like usually on television, when people do Christmas-themed episodes or holiday-themed episodes, they try to release the episode during the actual holiday that it's themed after. Sometimes it doesn't always work out like that, though. Rick makes a whole bunch of jokes about the president going after terrorists and being kind of a terrorist himself. You could think of it as a joke about all of our presidents for the last 20 years or so, saying that the word terrorist gets used so much that it's lost all meaning. Like, you just go after people that you don't like and call them terrorists. The president then reveals that he has a working Phantom Zone projector from the Superman movies and comics that works the exact same way, so apparently the Phantom Zone is now canon to the Rick and Morty multiverse, and it sounds like they actually have access to real kryptonite when he makes the joke about bars of soap and showers inside the Phantom Zone prison. That's just the same super old joke that everybody is told in their lifetime at some point about not dropping the soap in prison, because, you know. Both Summer and the vice president make jokes about Rick and the president getting it on with each other, like, why don't you two just screw and get it over with? The vice president also calls Rick his space boyfriend. Rick then implies that he's turned himself into a turkey many times before on many Thanksgiving holidays in many previous attempts to get pardoned by the president for crimes that he's committed in the past, as if somehow being pardoned as a turkey would pardon him for human crimes that he committed. When he yells at Jerry to be careful with his answer about how long he's lived in the house, that's just a joke about him always being gone on adventures, particularly when Beth was growing up. So if you only counted the amount of time he's physically occupied the house, it would be a very short amount of time that he's lived there. The whole elaborate montage of him explaining all these turkey missions intercut with the president deconstructing those missions and countermeasures is just meant to be another joke about Nicolas Cage's heist explanation montages during the National Treasure movies. This time the president plans to swap the turkeys on the truck that Rick will be on for Marines who have also been turned into turkey hybrids. Most of you could probably recognize the celebrity guest cameo this week. The Marine leader, Cooper, was being played by Timothy Olyphant. Most of you probably remember him from The Mandalorian Season 2 recently, just last year, where he guest starred as Cobb Vanth, the person who gets Boba Fett's armor after he went into the Sarlacc, which Boba Fett then later reclaimed from Mando. They said that the whole joke about the human eye being face blind for turkeys, which they pay off later in the episode after Rick can't recognize which turkey the president is. There's also another joke about that at the end of the episode where the bartender can't seemingly tell the difference between turkey president and the real president, calling himself racist. The president then makes the joke about Dwayne only being picked as vice president because he needs 10% of the white vote to win office. I guess you could think of that as another Obama-Biden joke, maybe? They reference the giant French Statue of Liberty assassin again, and it's still in the process of attacking New York, but apparently the president doesn't care about it right now because it's New York and they'll handle it themselves. I think that's a more recent reference to New York handling its own emergencies or doing things differently than other US states during emergencies the last couple of years. The New York state government actually just kind of did the same thing a little while ago last year with the whole Vax Pass thing. They introduced Timothy Olyphant's Cooper character. He and his Midwestern wife, the other members of his squad, are just meant to be Midwestern tropes. That's why they talk about being poor so many times, they speak with such stereotypical accents. He makes very specific music references for their demographic, then references a 30-mile radius. Like, they get really specific with their jokes, which is just meant to be a generic Midwestern town. Then they reveal that all the Marines on his team all come from the same area. They literally live on the same block right next to each other. They're all super poor, and they all have pregnant wives or girlfriends, which they all kind of call out in the parody song that they sing for this episode. There are a couple different parody songs that they made for this episode. Rick and Morty parody songs are usually pretty good. Cooper makes a Doctor Who reference when talking about Rick. A long time ago, Dan Harmon, when he was describing Rick and Morty before Season 1, used Doctor Who as an example. The whole plot with them turning the Marines into turkeys felt kind of like an Avatar movie parody, with them becoming the Na'vi aliens. Later, when the Turkey Marines start freaking out, that's just a generic war movie parody, with things going off the rails and some of them getting killed, like it's no big deal. They also kind of make it seem like pardoning turkeys is one of the most important jobs that this president has. They even have a hardcore underground bunker beneath the White House lawn for it. At this point, there are so many secret rooms and caverns and offices underneath the White House, you could call it its own city. The president figures out almost immediately that Rick and Morty at the house are just decoys that they've trapped by a David Blaine box, because Rick would never be trapped by something so dumb. If you don't remember the David Blaine box joke, that's a reference to the time when magician David Blaine spent 44 days trapped inside a glass box. It was really dumb at the time, which is what they're calling out here. Two of the Turkey Marines are named Rodriguez and Fincher. I think those are references to Robert Rodriguez and David Fincher, the directors. Robert Rodriguez actually directed that big Boba Fett episode during Mandalorian Season 2, and he's actually directing a bunch on the Book of Boba Fett Mandalorian spin-off series this year. The Book of Boba Fett is kind of like Mandalorian Season 2.5. I will be doing full episode videos for that, but those episodes won't start till Christmas at the end of this year. And as for David Fincher, there's also another David Fincher reference later in the episode when the president yells Fight Club at Rick. Jerry reminds us about his parents, who we haven't seen since the Christmas episode in Season 1, Anatomy Park. His father was actually played by Dana Carvey. Maybe we'll see them eventually come back to the show. The president changes himself into a turkey, and it's the second time that we've seen him change his body for a mission. The whole thing with Rick being afraid of the president in turkey form is just to make them feel more evenly matched. But the president makes a joke about poor white people, then asks Cooper, please don't tell the 10% of your friends. Just another callback to the joke about the vice president and the white vote. He also makes the same 10% joke later at the end of the episode as well. Rick implies that the only reason the United States is so powerful is because he lives there. Then they set up the whole post-credit scene with the blueberries giving Cooper PTSD and the turkey president swap with the tracking chip. And even though they play this joke like it's a body swap sci-fi horror movie, saying that because he got the president's DNA, this turkey president is now super smart, turkeys as animals are actually fairly intelligent compared to other animals. There's a whole bunch of details about turkeys that they give you during the episode. Like, you could also call this the episode with all the turkey facts. But the funny thing is that most of the facts the turkey president quotes are actually true in real life. Like the joke about them sleeping in trees in the wild and flying in the wild, those are both true. But the whole storyline with him winning over Congress with the pay raises every couple of minutes is just a generic joke about Congress being totally useless and all politicians being super corrupt. There's also an Easter egg in the way they use the camera here during this scene too. When they're supersizing the turkeys, they pull this move called the dolly zoom. It's been used in a lot of famous films, so you've probably seen it somewhere, like Alfred Hitchcock's films. There's also the very famous shot from Jaws that everyone always points to when describing this effect. Originally, it was just used to enhance the emotions of scenes, but in this context, the way they're using it is just a joke reference to old-school sci-fi horror films. They reveal that all the turkeys who the president doesn't pardon get sent to another secret cavern where they keep a mutated version of FDR, who was turned into a giant spider hybrid by a spider version of the polio vaccine. The president explains that apparently they use spider DNA when making the polio vaccine because their logic was spiders walk more than anyone else because of their 8 legs. It's purposefully meant to be a very dumb joke. They make a lot of FDR references to his polio, obviously, because of the whole vaccine joke. Morty makes a reference to his fireside chats when he lights them on fire. The president also makes a Facebook joke when he talks about how hard it is to have an iconic presidency in the modern era with the existence of social media, just because politicians and public figures get trashed so much online. Whereas in real life, when FDR was president back then, it was actually fairly easy for the government to hide his illness while he was in office. You could also think of this feeding chamber and the giant spider as a reference to Shelob on Lord of the Rings. The turkey president sells New York to France. I'm assuming that after the real president killed him at the end of the episode, he canceled that deal and took all the money back that he had given to Congress. Then they all just go naked for a solid portion of the episode, and even the president goes naked for even longer, which I think is another callback to Season 3. Rick makes an Inspector Gadget reference. The turkey president then pays off the terrorist joke again from the beginning of the episode, calling them terrorists because he wants to get rid of them. Then they reveal the president has a secret motorcycle hidden inside the Congress chamber, activated by Mary Todd Lincoln's name. She was Abraham Lincoln's wife. Rick then reveals that he keeps spare clothes for the president at his house, and that it's one of the president's safe houses, like he's used it as a safe house before. He's only got spares for himself, Morty, and Summer, no spare clothes for Beth or Jerry, apparently. Rick then clarifies the reason why he hates all countries in the multiverse is because they're only glorified job placement programs for politicians that invent each country, as if they're only invented for the purposes of giving themselves jobs. The president also starts taking shots at Morty left and right too, but then is put in his place by Beth, who brings them all to Thanksgiving dinner. And I like that the president is somehow almost as powerful as Rick, like he can push Rick around, but he still cowers in front of Beth for some reason. And I love that he's still super duper naked while this is happening, and nobody references it at all. Nobody calls it out like it's no big deal. They both make like they were almost ready to run to the corner bar until Rick is like, "Bars suck on Thanksgiving, we can't do that." Jerry is watching a Wizard of Oz remake by Charlie Kaufman, and he typically does stories with really bizarre plots that showcase a sense of fantasy in the real world, which is why you hear Dorothy talking about real vital organs, and the Scarecrow is trying to write his own movie inside the Wizard of Oz movie. The president then rips Jerry, revealing that he hasn't paid any income tax in a long time because he hasn't had a paying job in a long time, bonding with Rick briefly over their dislike of Jerry. Then when they start making all the Nazi jokes with the big super soldier turkey plot, the Nazi turkeys in space, it kind of made me think of the Iron Sky movie, but if you think you know another movie that they're parodying here with the turkey super soldiers, just write it below in the comments. Summer makes a reference to genocide, talking about what the United States did in real life to most Native American tribes over the course of its history. Then the president reveals the true secret behind the treasure that Rick was trying to steal at the beginning of the episode, and in doing so, the show basically rewrites the entire history of the world in America. It's actually a pretty big deal, so we'll see if they continue to reference the true history of the world in future episodes. But the whole idea is that instead of the Templar treasure that Rick was hoping for, America has secretly been keeping ancient alien pilgrims and Indians who came to Earth to share their technology, so every major advancement and innovation in human history is because of ancient aliens. I think that's just another joke about ancient aliens building the pyramids and things like that, real-world conspiracy theories. But they're kind of doing this as an Aliens and Predator movie parody, like these are aliens and these are predators. Then, like I said, later at the end of the episode, one of the aliens literally mentions the Predator movie. Like, somehow, while they were in hibernation after coming to Earth, they were also able to watch movies. They make a bunch of jokes about the Revolutionary War when Rick says training a bunch of hillbillies was enough to beat the British. Then they bring back Cooper and his squad, or at least the ones that are still alive. There's a joke about them not serving presidents at the bar because at one point in history, Jimmy Carter left an unpaid tab of $53. I think maybe in real life he was criticized once for being frugal or not tipping well or something like that. It felt like that was what they were referencing with that Jimmy Carter joke. His whole rousing presidential speech is meant to be a parody of all rousing presidential speeches like Independence Day, with him just saying a lot of nonsense. Then they make a joke about Star Wars AT-ATs and how fans argue over the correct pronunciation, AT-AT or AT-AT. The whole thing about them calling it out as unlicensed just feels like the show buffering itself, like please don't sue us, Lucasfilm. The entrance to the new crypt is inside the Lincoln Memorial, and then they reveal that there were at one point turkey dinosaurs ruling over America before the aliens came. The two vessels that crashed there were the Predator and alien Pilgrims and Indians, and apparently they have the natural mutant ability to raise corn on command using the corn cobs to kill the mutant turkeys. They make a joke about the low-level enlisted men that are there only being there so that they can pay for college. In the United States, if you enlist in the Army or in the armed forces, because of the GI Bill, the government will pay for your college. The turkeys use the Washington Monument as a giant humanizer ray, which Morty then later destroys at the end of the episode. And the funny thing is that Rick says, if you destroy it, we'll have to do this again next year, as if they're going to do another Thanksgiving-themed episode or another holiday episode next year. And they end the episode with it still destroyed, so it sounds like they will do another holiday episode during Season 6. The president officially pardons Rick, meaning that he is now pardoned for everything that he has ever done up to this point, sort of wiping his slate clean. I did think it was kind of weird that the turkey president's plan is to only supersize American turkeys. You'd think that he would want to do that to all the turkeys on the planet. And apparently the mutant turkey wishbones in the Rick and Morty multiverse actually grant real wishes. Then they make a whole bunch of jokes about the president being obsessed with PlayStation consoles his whole life, and apparently Maroon 5 for some reason. His life flashes before his eyes, but throughout history, amongst, real-world big WTF events, every other moment is basically the release of a new PlayStation console. And he ends the flashback with him yelling about wanting a PlayStation 5, which I feel like is just a joke about nobody being able to actually buy a PlayStation 5 this past year. The president kind of makes a racist joke about the aliens, saying that he doesn't speak Guga. He also called the aliens that were infesting the tunnels beneath the White House during Season 3 Gugas, as if Guga is the word that he uses for all aliens and creatures. But then during the post-credit scene, they pay off that blueberries joke where Cooper gets PTSD from their mission and starts acting like a turkey again, eating all the blueberries off the floor in a frenzy. Also joking about how the government just canceled his military health insurance because they need more money to build missiles with. Overall, it was a pretty ridiculous holiday-themed episode, but if you spotted any big Easter eggs that I didn't mention during the video, just write them below in the comments. My full Rick and Morty Season 5 Episode 7 video will post next week. That's the Voltron episode, the one that leaked early a couple weeks ago, so some of you may have seen it already. I'll name a new giveaway winner when I post that video. Right now, everyone click here to learn how Iron Man knew about Kang inside the MCU, and click here for all my Rick and Morty episodes. Thank you so much for watching, everyone stay safe, and I'll see you guys tonight.